So our team for the Seafood Forum, Futures Forum is Fit for the Futures, how the MSC can stay the course. Rupert just made a reference to the UN SDGs, especially on goal 14, which is about the conservation and sustainable use of our oceans. Today we are going to try and explore how the MSC program fits into a global effort to use our oceans more sustainably. So in terms of where we currently fit in, the UN Biodiversity Indicators Partnership, BIP, is a global program that allows governments to measure progress towards biodiversity targets. They have identified the MSC as a tool to deliver and measure a number of these targets, including SDG 14. The MSC was also recognized by GSSI last year for meeting all essential components of its benchmarking against the FAO international guidelines for certification and eco-labeling programs. We are unique in also meeting their supplementary components on issues such as vulnerable marine ecosystem, inclusive stakeholder engagement, and providing public evidence behind scoring decisions. In addition, the MSC is also one of the few standard setters globally, not just for seafood, that meet the 3 codes of good practices of ISIL for standard setting, assurance, and impact of its program. So one could argue that this is more than enough to demonstrate the role and credibility of our program. However, the MSC is still challenged by some NGOs to keep raising its sustainability bar. On the other hand, many certified fisheries complain they can't keep up with the pace of changes in the MSC program. Our ambition is to strike a delicate and pragmatic balance to engage fisheries in order to drive improvements. So, indeed, today, 14% of global wild capture is MSC certified or in assessment, implying that 86% is not. So, this graph shows that while we continue to make progress and drive improvement, there is still a very long way to go before all fisheries are able to engage in the program. This limits the change that the MSC standards helps to deliver. We've demonstrated that our theory of change works. MSC has been a catalyst for more than 1,000 improvements in fisheries worldwide, as reported in our global impacts report that invite you to consult on our website. But most fisheries improvement projects, such as SFP, O2, and WF, I know many are in the room, use our standard as a framework for improving fisheries which are not ready to meet the MSC bar. But what this graph doesn't show is that many of the certified landings come from countries that are already considered the best in the world when it comes to management. Denmark, Norway, New Zealand, Canada, USA, all have more than 50% of their landings certified. And this year, Iceland announced that 90% of their landings are now certified. The Icelandic announcement followed the certification of several new fisheries, such as mackerel, tusk, wholefish, blueling, and 2 world firsts for new species, capelin and monkfish. Other firsts around the globe were Greenland halibut and abalone in Western Australia. Western Australian rock lobster also became the first fishery to be recertified successfully for the 4th time. But I'd like to focus today on 2 fisheries which demonstrate how the MSC program performs at its best. The first is the North Sea brine shrimp, a very old fishery that used to trawl on horseback, but now comprises 400 boats that catch 30,000 tons of shrimp annually. In a pre-assessment more than 10 years ago, serious questions were asked about the fishery and its management, and it was shown not to meet MSC requirement at the time. A new collaboration to achieve MSC certification started in 2015. Before this, there was no quotas or restrictions on fishing efforts. The University of Hamburg and a working group helped to develop a harvest control rules to ensure the healthy growth of the stock. During the assessment, a coalition of 8 conservation NGOs also contributed constructively to the outcome. The fishery will have to fulfill several conditions in the coming years to keep the MSC certificate, and several NGOs and the fishery will facilitate together the project. So when so often the attention focuses on the few fishery stakeholders cannot agree on, this is a great example indeed of a constructive multi-stakeholder collaboration to support a fishery. This is what Healthy Oceans means and demonstrates how the MSC standard can provide a common framework. The second example is less nice in a way, because unfortunately, sometimes things don't go well. This year, the MSC certificate for the Southern Gulf of St. Lawrence snow crab trap fishery in Canada was suspended. Due in part to the mortality of 12 right whales in Canadian water, the fishery was found to no longer meet the MSC standard related to endangered, threatened, and protected species. Suspension is always difficult to take, but in this case, again, we have witnessed a very proactive response from the fishery. Our standard is really designed to allow us to stay engaged with fisheries, because it is only by being at the table that the MSC program can work with fisheries to influence and drive improvements. And as you can see on the screen, we are very pleased that the fisheries remains committed to the MSC program and wish them every success in implementing a corrective action plan. But we're also working with fisheries that are not yet sustainable. MSC is often seen as a standard setter and eco-labeling program only, but we do a lot behind the scenes to support broader sustainable development. This is what we term the pathways to sustainability. We have helped to build capacity in fisheries and work with FIP providers and management authorities across the world. This includes working to develop multi-fisheries pre-assessment project in 14 countries, you can see here, often aimed at supporting small-scale inshore fisheries to build action plans. The most recent one is actually a collaboration in India between the Indian Central Marine Fisheries Research, WF India, and a number of Indian seafood processors. 10 fisheries, including blue swimming crab, shrimp, and cuttlefish, have been identified for targeting MSC certification. This is a very exciting project in a very important country for seafood. But we also found external projects that we're not involved in. The MSC, through the Global Fisheries Sustainability Fund, awarded more than £200,000 in 2017 to 5 projects that will aid small-scale and developing world fisheries in improving their sustainability. Examples you can see also on the previous slide. This slide shows actually is something we provided last year to 2 students with scholarships to help fund the research on the trade flows of octopus from small-scale fisheries in East Africa and the use of LED lights on nets to reduce turtle bycatch in Kenyan artisanal fisheries. And now to the markets. As you know, our program relies on market demand for eco-label products, which provide incentives for fisheries to become and remain sustainable. So I would like to update you on some of the progress observed over the past year. We are about to reach 29,000 MSC label products sold in 108 countries. In 2017, this represented 20% growth in volume globally, which is one of the strongest in recent years. In terms of volume per country and the distribution of MSC label products, Germany is still by far the leading market globally, followed by the UK, US, France, and Sweden. The fastest growth, 6 times, occurred in China, followed by Italy, where we have very strong growth as well, Japan, Portugal, and Poland. All countries where sustainability has become increasingly important for seafood professionals, where we still have to make a lot of effort with consumers. I mentioned last year that we have less growth in demand from the wet fish counter and food service sectors, which is why this is a new strategic focus for us. But we have seen recent progress. Eroski and Tesco came on board last year. This year it is Coop Sweden that got all fresh fish counters certified. Carrefour will have them by the end of this year, which is quite a big deal in France, where more than half of the fish is consumed fresh. Carrefour focused their efforts on the top species, wild caught and farm salmon. Both are already 100% MSC and ASC. As one of our fastest growing markets, in Japan there is a real drive for sustainability, mainly triggered by the seafood sourcing policy of Tokyo Olympics 2020 and the great work of retailers Aeon and Japan Coop. It is interesting to notice that Mayura, Nichiro, Nisui and Kyokuto all introduced MSC label product for the first time last year. This is a significant move, as we have witnessed in other markets that when brand leaders come on board, it becomes a catalyst for the rest of the market to follow. It's also significant more globally because Mayura, Nichiro, Nisui and Kyokuto are amongst the top 10 largest seafood companies in the world. In food service, Finnish cruise line Tallink Silja became the first in the world to serve MSC certified seafood, and in China and Japan the first independent restaurants were satisfied. And this year, as you can see here on the slide, we've seen several new developments in food public procurement policies across Europe. MSC is often the only reference actually for wild seafood. In October this year, the European Union hosted our Oceans Conference, October last year, our Oceans Conference where the MSC launched a new partnership initiative called the 2020 Leaders for a Living Ocean. We gathered commitments from 27 companies dedicated to making real progress towards the SDGs by increasing availability of certified sustainable seafood. Please note that new companies can still join this initiative. At the meeting, the MSC also announced its ambition to 20% of global wild capture to be engaged in the program by 2020. And to achieve this, we will deliver new tools to better enable fisheries in the global south to progress towards the MSC bar. We will also focus on large marine ecosystem underrepresented in the MSC program, where the threat to biodiversity is high. Among these 27 companies, we have Sainsbury, Carrefour, Aeon, Coles, Kroger, IKEA. Sorry, I won't name all of them. We also know that consumers play a key role in the program. To raise awareness on sustainable seafood choice and educate the public on sustainable fishing, our offices around the world have organized over 20 sustainable seafood campaigns over the past 12 months, often jointly with ASC, WF, or other NGOs. One of the most successful ones took place in France for a week, where MSC collaborated with many commercial partners, but also institutional partners such as France Nature Environnement, the Musée Océanographique de Monaco, or the Paris Aquarium. Sorry, I won't name all of them. The impact was pretty impressive, with our partners reaching almost 4 million online followers and 40 million consumers through retailers' catalogs. The team ran public debates and launched a French translation of a new global educational film for schools, which just last week won a prestigious award in the UK. For the next topic, in our pre-conference survey, you voted the next session the most wanted. Every 2 years, the MSC commissions one of the largest seafood consumer surveys in the world, covering over 25,000 consumers across 22 markets. Today, we have hot from the press the first results. Really hot from the press is from last week. So the results is that ocean pollution is high on the public agenda, ranking as the top ocean concerns for consumers today. However, overfishing is a close second in almost all countries. In the last survey, consumers ranked sustainability as second only to taste and quality as a motivator when purchasing seafood. This year, in all but 7 markets, price now ranks above sustainability, indicating a more challenging environment than 2 years ago and reinforcing the need to emphasize personal benefits. We are encouraged that consumers' awareness of the blue MSC label has increased globally from 38 to 41% across the 22 markets, and consumer trust remains high at 67% globally. All of that is our average, obviously. Full results will be shared over the next few months. Please click on the link at the bottom of our emails to ensure you are invited to webinars that we will organize in the next few months. Finally, I would like to update you on 2 key projects aimed at improving the integrity of the MSC program. The first one is about improving traceability by putting information about product origin on a digital platform and reducing the times it takes to do tracebacks. We term these key data elements. Over 2018, we will work with ASC to run a proof of concept with 6 supply chains. This will include large and small companies across the globe and ones that are already using digital traceability systems, but also those that don't, because we've seen that in over 4,000 chain of custody holders around the world, we have a lot of difference in terms of traceability system in place in those companies. If successful, a wider pilot will be a rollout that is open for all MSC and ASC partners to join. The second workstream is focused on social considerations. Over the past few years, our stakeholders have highlighted the increasing importance of social issues in the seafood sector. It is today outside of MSC's core mission and a complex issue. But through collaboration with other standard setters and through mechanisms that foster transparency, MSC can help efforts to understand and address this. So we are proposing to introduce an eligibility requirement for fisheries to disclose measures, policies, and practices they have in place to ensure the absence of forced labor. For the supply chain, we are proposing to introduce a requirement for high-risk land-based supply chains to undertake a third-party audit with social standard. We are actively consulting now, but we expect to release the first of the new requirements this August. So, as you can see, another very busy year full of exciting new developments for the MSC. Our program is now truly global with stronger growth in new countries, new market segments, new commodities, and new projects. But our program is also challenged by some stakeholders from industry and NGOs, with often very conflicting views on what MSC should do. As you can imagine, it can be difficult for us to navigate through such opposite demands, but that is the unique role that we strive to fulfill. And we recognize it can be even harder for the users of our program.